Hello, you're welcome to Joy Research Blog, your one-stop blog for in-depth analysis on political issues in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the globe. The security situation in Nigeria at the moment has really deteriorated. And, this paints a very ugly picture, a very ugly writing on the wall, and has elicited a very fundamental question, which is the insecurity in Nigeria a function of a weak, fragile, or a failed state? Don't forget to subscribe to Joy Research Blog. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. You can like and share. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. Now, the geopolitical zones of Nigeria, of the country has become a hotbed and heaven for all forms of criminality, all manner of criminality perpetrated by headsmen, bandits, and militia group, kidnappers, just name it. Every day, the mainstream and the social media is agog with horrifying news, of death, kidnapping, killings, just name it. Different forms of criminality. Now, and you find videos of people leaving their ancestral land, the rising number of refugees, the number of out school enrollment dropping drastically especially in the northeast and in the northwest. What is wrong in Nigeria? Is Nigeria weak? Is Nigeria a fragile state? Or is Nigeria a failed state? Now, a state becomes weak where there's apparent capacity gap in the provision of security and basic amenities. Now, one of the quantitative index for measuring the weakness of a state is linked to terrorism, which is a clear example of the Nigerians, especially what we have in the northeast, where we have different terrorist group holding sway in the northeast. Now, weak states are also characterized by having low or slow economic growth and low efficiency of state institutions, which are incapable of implementing policies and programs due to massive corruption. According to the Institute of State Effectiveness in Washington, D.C., state fragility is the inability of the state to handle some basic key functions such as rule of law, monopoly on the legitimate use of force or violence, inefficient management of state finance, effective management of the state finance, management of state asset, and management of public institutions. Now, the primary catalyst of conflicts in fragile states revolves around inequality, injustice, ethnicity, and religion, fueled by polarization, nepotism. Oftentimes, we've had situations where people who have been involved or who have been arrested and alleged to have been involved in most of these heinous crimes, we find that people who always say that the state has failed them, who often say that they are unable to get the means of livelihood, they're unable to get jobs, they're unable to access, what is basically their rights in the society. Of course, this is not an excuse for crime, but those are some of the catalysts, those are some of the things that motivates crime and criminalities in societies, where there is sharp inequality between the served and those that have been served, those that are serving. You find public officials and their families living in affluence, living in luxury, while the taxpayers are growing in poverty. All sort of inequality is a major catalyst for crime and criminality, and this is a function of a fragile state. Max Weber defines a failed state as a sovereign entity that deteriorates or disintegrates to a point where the primary functions and responsibility of government no longer functions effectively. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution holds that security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. But a sequential analysis of security and welfare situation from successive administrations since 1999 in Nigeria will give a basis for a standpoint that indeed Nigeria has been a combination of a weak, fragile, and a failed state. Now, this standpoint is premised on the assumption that public institutions are ineffective in implementing government policies. We all know that it's no longer news that there are lots of government institutions in Nigeria, a lot of government offices. But what comes out from there in terms of implementing government policies, in terms of meeting the yearnings of the people, is absolutely nothing to write home about. You see, more also, according to a report by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics in 2002, poverty rate, now this is in terms of welfare now, poverty rate in Nigeria is now multidimensional. That means it is no longer a function of how much you're able to spend based on the World Bank standard, how much an individual is, able to spend per person per day. It's now multidimensional. It now covers not just what you have in your pocket or your purchasing power. It now covers access to healthcare, education, amenities, just name them. So the level of poverty in Nigeria is now multidimensional. Now, this tells you that in terms of welfare, it's gone. And now with security, it is gone. And we all know the success or the growth of an economy is tied, without doubt, to security. So where there's absence of security, experts have given serious warning that with the level of insecurity in the Middle Belt, Benue, Plateau, food security is going to be a very big problem, especially in 2024. What is government doing? So that tells you that the security is really, 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 has really deteriorated as far as the Nigerian state is concerned. Now, there are reports that the spread of banditry in the northwest is as a result of the gold mining in Zamfara, in parts of the northwest. How much has the government done to manage this crisis? Because we have reports that the bandits now collect taxes, now levy the people. When they go to the farm, they have to weed, they have to make a vest, they have to do everything. That means it's now a parallel state as far as the Nigerian state is concerned. These are indications that the state has failed. That means the state is unable to curtail the menace that's happening in this place. Now, at the moment, a few months ago, Nigerians who were meant to go and serve, going for orientation for the mandatory NYC were kidnapped. Up till this moment, their whereabouts is unknown. They're still with their doctors. The people who carried out the killings in Plateau, in Benue, over the years, in Southern Kaduna, we haven't heard any news that people have been charged, have been prosecuted, have been jailed for these killings, for these acts of terrorism. The perpetrators are still at large. The list is endless. The killings in the southeast, the southwest, the list is endless. No doubt the government is doing its best to curtail or to minimize the menace, considering the amount that the government spends as budgeted over the years for defense, for security, to fight insecurity, to ensure that the country is secure. But it appears those charged with the responsibility are only the ones benefiting, because we've seen people who have held offices as defense chiefs and all of that growing fat and becoming richer. That means, that tells you that the fight against insecurity in Nigeria is nowhere near what the masses want. Let us hear your view. What do you think? Do you think Nigeria is a weak state? Give us your reason. Do you think Nigeria is a fragile state at the brink of collapse? Do you think Nigeria is a failed state, that the institutions have failed? Please let us know. Just leave a comment and we'll be sure to get back to you. You can also reach us on the number on the screen, and then you can also send us an email. Rest assured that we'll get back to you. And once again, do not forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. Until we come your way again, thank you very much.